Hey everyone, this is Austin Shore here with We Write About Music, and today I am thrilled to be speaking with Brenda Carsey. She has just released a fantastic new record called Cognizance, and I'm super excited to talk to her all about it. Brenda, I want to sincerely thank you for taking the time out of your busy life to be here. How are you doing today?
I am doing so good and honestly my pleasure. I love people who give a shit that I'm alive, so that's great.
I give all the shits. so, yeah, so you got this new record out, and let me just, I mean, obviously not the first one to say it, but the first one maybe today. I love it. I
Mhm.
listened to it a couple times through, and as I mentioned before we started recording, it's just like filled with sincerity and
Mhm.
passion and love. And you can really tell that the person behind it, which is you, truly like loved making it. It's not one of those
Thank you.
manufactured displays of music that we get so much nowadays. Um, and so through that long-winded intro, the first thing I really want to hear from you is like, what is it about? Is it a series of small, intimate stories, or is there one overarching message?
Right. I just first of all want to say thank you sincerely because that was so sweet.
You're welcome.
um it was just some of them are personal stories, but I feel like compared to a lot of my past albums, this is my first album that's very outside of me in regards to subject matter, and it was much more observational about what I was seeing and experiencing and feeling and hearing from like friends of my life stories and just witnessing the world around me unfolding as it has been the last couple of years,
Right.
and then just my own personal experience. So it's a little bit of everything, but a lot more outside of the body and a lot more, even the personal things I write about are more, um, oh, what's the word, like something that anyone could relate to and experience, as opposed to like
Sure.
writing specifically only about me, you know what I mean, which I've done tons of times on past albums. Yeah.
Of course. I mean, listen, I think that at least like in the past 2 years, there's one common ground that everyone can find. We don't need to talk about that, but I think just like generally in writing music, people will try their hardest to connect the dots within your words no matter. Obviously,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
can't write an entire record that caters to everyone because you're writing from personal experience. But I think as a listener who takes the time, they're going to go out of their way to really be like, I understand what she's saying. And you sort of provide like a shoulder to lean on in that sense.
Thank you. It's
Well,
just, it was, and because in regards to the, you said like me not doing like a hyper manufactured or like,
yeah,
I didn't cater the record to like a modern
right.
sphere. And like a lot of people tell me it's very old fashioned sounding, or
Yeah,
like very like musical theatery, which I was like, there's actually a modern word for that, which is chamber pop. I'm like, that's actually,
right.
that's a genre. So I was like, but I just, it was the first time in my entire life that, so it's my second full like studio album, meaning I didn't record it in my bedroom. Like I actually went
Right.
somewhere and did it. So it's the second time in my career that I've done that. And I knew that I wanted to have a Beatles-esque experience where I rented the entire studio
Awesome.
for a chunk of time, and like no one else was going to go in there, no one else's gear, nothing was being taken down or reset up, so it was just my space for 9 days, and
It's a good-
however much we could accomplish and however many people I could get in there, because that's what I could afford. I was like, 9 days is my cap. um
That's like 8 more days than normal people have. So I think you're definitely got to
but
stick.
yeah,
That's
so that was
amazing.
that was it, just like having that, because that's a very old fashioned thing too, I think, to have
Extremely.
just like,
Nowadays, yes.
yeah, like access to a studio and just this really big production. I mean, it's huge, but it's not like literally huge. It's not like orchestral,
Sure.
film huge, but it was such a blast. And it was so much work doing that 9 days straight. A little bit regret it, especially vocally a tiny bit, but it was just so much fun just being completely immersed
Yeah.
in that and having like these incredibly talented people in the Los Angeles instrumentalist community come in and just be badass. Like that was the best.
No, I mean, like, listen, I'll say, I'll be the first to say, like, I'm not a musician, but a dream of mine is to sit in on one of those sessions. I
Oh,
feel like as an artist, there's nothing more that makes it real than being in the studio, especially nowadays when we sort of like, live our lives online and everything is very curated to social media. There's nothing more that kind of defeats the imposter syndrome instead of like being there. Like, I am doing this, I am here, and we are making music from scratch. I think it
Yes.
has to be one of the most rewarding feelings.
Yeah. Okay. Next time I will invite you, first of all. And then I did have a couple people sit in on the session for
Sure.
fun. And then the second thing I feel like I should like drop this now is I did film the entire making of the album.
I was gonna
Um,
ask. I was like, that's too good of an opportunity.
we
Not,
we filmed everything, and then the problem was is my brain was like, we should absolutely film this in 4K, all of it, like 9 days worth of, like, the amount of footage and the size of the files is immense. And it was so large that the laptop that I have was incapable of even allowing me to view it. Like, it couldn't process the length and the
right.
scope of these videos. So it took me literally like over a year, and I finally had the files converted to 1080 just so I can like look at them.
Sure, sure.
So hopefully that will come out this year. But it's like huge, and I don't know what I want to do with it. And
Hey,
I,
listen,
I,
you're
yeah. And there
40
was
years
someone
from now, yeah, 40
yeah,
years from now, when you're accepting your lifetime achievement award,
oh
you're gonna
God,
have
yeah.
you're gonna have an external hard drive worth of these little tidbits of you as a young adult figuring it out, and it's gonna be
With
those
a
videos.
with a mask,
Yeah, obviously.
with really, really long hair. It's so
Yeah,
weird because
someone holding your hand up the stage as you do the
yeah.
thing. Yeah, yeah, you're gonna be
Yeah.
thrilled with it.
But the point is that should hopefully come out this year and
Okay.
sooner than later. But I'm the one who's going to end up editing it
Oh,
because of budget stuff, and also because the person I really wanted to do it, I don't think is going to be available, because I really want like a creative styled short film.
sure.
I'm not just like a straightforward documentary. So I was like, I'm going to just end up having to do this. Otherwise it's going to cost me thousands of dollars. Independent musician plight 101.
Yeah. Fully. Now I want to take a little bit of a closer look into this record, because through my couple listens, we sort of touched on it. There's so many different styles and genres and just different things that arise. Like, it's not one thing. It's not just pop. It's not just chamber pop. There really is so much going on. So no better person to hear it from you. What's the elevator pitch for this record for someone that has not listened, that is going to?
Man, I have like forced myself into an R&B soul progressive pop box. That's what I would say more, because it is classic songwriting in the sense that there's like a verse, chorus, etc. It is very formulaic in regards to that. So that's where that pop element comes in. And I am like a very, theatrical, like clear worded kind of poppy singer,
Yeah.
jazzy, soulful singer. But yeah, but everything else, it's just like, because I love albums, it gives
Right.
you so much space to have the journey, right? So it doesn't need to be single, a brand, like where everything needs to be similar, because it's like finding that congruency amongst all the things you're releasing. It's more like a novel, right? You have like the beginning of your character, and you have like the development of everything that's happened to them over the course of the time of writing the book or the record. And then like this grand conclusion, right? With a lot of pain in the middle and a lot of like struggle and like some joy at the end and some joy at the beginning, or like I started the record off with the two songs I did because they're the only two that actually specifically talk about myself.
Okay.
And everything else from there kind of goes to societal and to everything else. So it's a journey, man. It's a journey. And
Totally.
as a songwriter, I write in all the genres. I can't help myself. So I just picked the ones that I felt would at least like complement one another and would make sense as like a journey of a record,
If only you could see the notes on my screen right now. It's basically the same thing. Like, whenever I do these, I always slightly worry, am I experiencing this differently than the artist who made it? Not that it would be a slap in the face, but everyone experiences every piece of art different.
What did you write?
Now, the first thing I have is the cohesiveness. Truly,
Mm,
it is an album experience. Just it's not just lead single, filler track, second single that's super catchy and stands out, and then the rest fall off. You truly have curated an experience for the listener that comes in waves of emotion and storytelling and your dynamic vocals. Like, it really does take you on a journey and an adventure, as opposed to
thank
just
you.
like here's 30 minutes and 10 minutes is great and 20 is just fine. Like it's not like that at all, which is such a refreshing
Oh,
thing, especially
thank you.
nowadays. Yeah. And this could be a 3 hour conversation. I mean, you know as good as anyone, having a single is all about, playlist sharing, and that's what Spotify prefers. But it feels so rare nowadays for someone to actually create an album that's over 45 minutes for
Mhm.
someone to listen to. I don't know if it's how you were raised and what the parents had on in the car or whatever it might be, but it could be because of that. Who knows?
My parents were, well, I grew up in like classical music in a sense that I was in like band and orchestra, and I did like 11 years or whatever it was in total of choir and like competitive choir and all that. So there's a lot of that. And then my household actually didn't really listen to music almost ever. It's really depressing. That's a whole other conversation.
Sure.
But when they did listen to music, my dad would always put on literally either mariachi music or classical music
All
and
right.
do crossword puzzles to them on Sundays. And then my mom like loves musicals and loves Barbara Streisand. Like I think she'd be okay with me saying those two things. Like loves those two things so much. So
Yeah.
that's definitely very clearly part of my early influence, like my 4-year-old, 5-year-old self.
No, I think our moms would get along. My mom's
Yeah.
very similar to that. No joke. Barbara was a staple in the car growing up.
Really?
Oh yeah, whether you liked it or
I
not,
love it.
she
I
was
love
she
it.
was she was there. That's so funny.
I love that so much. I
So,
love it. She's amazing.
she
She's
is amazing.
she's a very bizarre woman, but she's very,
Legend,
very
yes.
talented.
But what artist isn't weird or different or anything? Like, it's not a prerequisite, but like it
Yeah.
helps. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Crafting art. So I do want to know. You mentioned this is your second album that you created in the studio. What are some things, I guess, some building blocks or some knowledge that you pulled from the first time around that you applied to this time around?
One is patience.
Yes. Yeah.
It's to do something large, you have
Mhm.
to have the patience to have time to ponder and opportunity for foresight and contemplation of like all of the possibilities of things that could occur and all the things which are out of your control, all the things that all that kind of stuff. So one was just making like an obnoxious schedule. Like the schedule I made, it's an Excel spreadsheet that's color coded, and I'm like, this day from this time to this time, these instrumentalists are coming in, and this time to this time. It's very much like like a true producer, like a type of film producer, where I just location scouting, food, like curating, like schedule timetables, all that stuff just takes a lot of time. I think as an independent artist, I will say I'm available for hire as a producer if people need
Yeah.
help. But
I mean, you
um,
have to be organized. That's the first thing.
it's
When so much money
really
is involved, you got to be on the ball. I
that
get.
was the other thing I was going to say. It's like number one, like when you're working with organic musicians and organic sounds and not digital sounds, like electronic music and stuff like that.
It.
A lot of it is your willingness to trust. Much like any business, if you're hiring good employees or whatever, but like in music, you're like you're working with people that you trust, and you, for myself at least, I acknowledge that it's going to be what it's going to be because of who is there, and like completely detaching myself from the expectation of how exactly it's supposed to sound is exciting to me. I really like that organic process of seeing what's going to happen and what's going to unfold. So I would say, oh yeah, so patience, obnoxious organization. So give yourself as much time as you need to do that.
Yes.
And then like hire people or work with people that you genuinely trust, not to like coddle you and give you exactly what you want, but to like give them space to be their best self so that your best self can also shine. I think that's just like a metaphor for how we should be alive as people. But
I agree.
yeah,
I think another thing is obviously you've been doing this a while, but just surrounding yourself with people that aren't gonna lie to your face. It's so nice to be able to surround yourself with yes people who are just like, you're doing a great
yeah,
job. I'm not going to tell you the truth. And I think, especially for you, for someone that's so immersed into it all, you kind of maybe become blinded. You hear the same song 1,000 times and it starts to hear different or sound different, and you
Mhm.
begin second guessing, and you sort of need to have, a producer or someone else to be like, hey, I love you and I want this to sound like this, and just to be honest.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I will say, just for my only for myself, like I am the producer, like both musically and like more in a production literal way. I am really confident about stuff like that, but like a good producer is like, especially like for example with like a guitarist, like an electric guitarist or like a solo or like a drum fill thing. It's like you're just like more being like yes a little more or no a
mhm,
little less, and you're putting trust in everybody else. But you're like, it's more like painting moments instead of painting these like really specific black line and color in this space here and color in this space here. It's a lot more figurative and a lot more loose, you know?
totally. I
I
get it.
think that that makes a good producer, I think.
So now that this record is out and about and people can listen, is there any plans for touring or any shows, anything you'd like to plug in that sense?
I absolutely so last year, just briefly, I released 4 singles from the album and did like these huge shows and have been very strategic. And I just released this album 3 weeks ago and did like a gigantic show in Los Angeles with an 11-piece band, and it was fantastic. I had the best time. Where I'm at the moment is absolutely, I will absolutely tour this record and I will figure something out. Right now, I am trying to fundraise a bit on the front end to be able to help me. I'm not doing like a crowdfunding thing or stuff like that at the moment, but I have like a lot of merchandise that people can buy on Bandcamp that will just be reinvested back into things like going on tour. Um, there was a job that I had at the top of the year, and I lost that job. So I lost like a third of my income. It was one of many things that I do. So it kind of postponed some of my plans, but
Yeah,
TBA. But yes.
cool. Cool. And that's fine. There's no rush. You do things at your own pace, and
I know, but I want to go now. I really do.
it will happen though, which
Yes.
sort of brings me to my next question in a way. We're very much still at the top of the year, it feels like. And although you sort of detailed how 2023 is going to look, what are some lofty goals that you'd like to hit, hopefully by year's end?
I would love to make my first return to New York and Nashville and like some of my favorite places that I haven't been to since before the shutdown, which is nutso. I used to go there once a year, every year for like half a decade, at least. So I would like to make my return to some places that I love, like both on tour and just as an existing person. I would love to secure like an opening slot on a more renowned artists
Yeah,
tour or even like a few show dates. Um, I would really like to play locally the Troubadour in Los Angeles. I still have not done that quite yet. So I would like to convince them to trust me and that I'll do a good job and put on a good show and like fill it up with people.
okay.
Um, yeah. And then honestly, I already have like my next singles like ready to go, like not like recorded or anything, but
Sure.
written. Like
I'm not surprised by that at all. You really seem like the person that's like, okay, well, we're done with that. On to the next thing.
I know. I know the hardest thing is being like, okay, so even though I've been working on this for 3 years,
Yeah,
every single person in the world is like, so it just happened. So what are you doing for the next 3 years? And you're like, oh crap. Like,
right. It's always the new thing, the next big thing.
yes,
It's like, can you just
yes,
appreciate the amount of hard work I put into this damn thing?
yeah,
For
yeah,
5 minutes, please.
yeah. Oh, and I am working on like a radio like campaign for the first time ever. So hopefully it'll be on the radio wherever you guys live soon. Like that's something I've never done. So we're just kind of like taking gambles on things that I've never tried to do.
Got
One,
it.
because to be honest, I think I mean we could go in on this if you really want, Austin, but I don't think that the way that the music industry is structured to penalize the artists, meaning that the independent artists, especially, like we have to pay for every single thing, and everyone else who's a professional deserves to get paid for, and that's like the radio solicitor and like their PR person, your playlist person, and your even like press people. And like I think everyone should fucking get paid. So it has nothing to do with me not thinking people should be
Totally.
paid what
Yeah.
they're worth. But it's so fascinating that it all falls on the shoulders of the artists who absolutely has less money out of every single person I just named there, but
Right.
we are expected to front the bill, make the art, pay everyone, and make everything happen, and learn how to be a photo editor, a video editor, um,
So,
a producer, a mixer, and like all these fascinating roles. And I do think it's a bit off skew and nonsensical to me. I do feel like it'd be it would make more sense to me to like have the culture of the United States of America appreciate artists and creatives more, and offer an opportunity for those for artists to be supported, because society at large appreciates art and music and those like reflections of society that we can like process feelings and like understand the world through, and like thusly we have money to pay for the capitalistic part of all that art, which is like for people to push it in people's faces. But it's
right.
crazy that we're the ones paying for everything. It makes no sense at all.
I'm right there with you, and I fully agree. And I've thought about this, like, and I've had 1,000 conversations, and there's really not one definitive solution. I
Yeah.
mean, just like the short answer is, at least for the US's sake, it's all about how can the government profit off of this? And I think they've made it
Yeah.
pretty clear that arts as a whole is not as important as it used to be, or if it really ever was. Things have kind of gotten outrageous in that.
Yeah.
Um,
I think America is really good at um well, I mean, capitalism is really what it is, because at a certain point, like you have to make the transition from being an artist who's live as an artist to, if you would like to do that full time or professionally, you have to basically turn yourself, your name, your entity, whatever, into a business. And that transition is so bizarre and uncomfortable the first time you start going through this. And I think that that's why people expect you to pay for everything, because they're like, well, you're not just an artist, you're a business, right? So this name, this brand name, this whatever performance name means that you have employees, you have this, you have that. But at an independent level, at a small level, you're expected and held to the same standards of expectation without the resources, without the access, without assistance and all those things. So it makes it, you have to have a lot of tenacity. That's why people say you have to have thick skin, I think, if you're independent, because at a certain point,
do.
yeah, you're just, do I do it myself? And I was going to say, in regards to like the United States and art, I think that I think there's a lot of people who love art, but like the culture of like our country, like in this gigantic generalized
Yeah.
homogenous blob statement, would be that majority of people who are not artists and don't participate in that field and are just like the receivers of that
Mhm.
care more about like iconography is not the right word, but like care about icons. We care
Yes.
about like obsessing over the entertainer and placing the entertainer and being entertained above the art that was made, right?
And
So
like a vast majority of people just generally don't care how anything is made. They're just
mm,
consumers. Like they have
yeah,
their own lives and whatever to worry about. And it's just like, I guess I'll just open Netflix and see what the new thing is. But they're not
yeah,
trained in the entertainment side of it, or just don't care. So,
right. And sometimes I have to like, we have to remind ourselves in parts of the creative industry that you're like, I mean, I don't know about every other professional field either. So
sure.
I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't expect them to know like how much it takes, but I have been, I don't know if I'm going to do it, but I have been toying with the idea of possibly releasing like a video series about like, I'm as low on the ladder of like being well known in the industry or whatever as possible. Like I have experience and I have knowledge and I have like, I'm not at the beginning of that journey, but
No.
I'm still like an unknown individual. And I bet I would blow people's minds, like the tens of thousands of dollars I've spent the last couple of years, like down payment on a house amount of money, like 50 grand. And people are like, wait, really? Like at your level, and I'm like, yeah, that's how much it takes to make good stuff happen.
Exactly.
It's
Well,
crazy.
I support it fully. I mean, you know how to do it. It's really just getting all the graphics done and laying out your bills, I suppose. So much more, but like, I do think that the general public needs to know. I think that at some point they do care, and if it was
Mhm.
presented to them as they're scrolling on their phone, they would stop and watch. Um, but yeah, always looking for definitive solutions.
Yep.
Yeah, fully agree. Well, I have one more question for you.
Okay.
And it's how I like to wrap these up. But basically, the question is for the person that is going to discover you from this, what is an opening message that you'd like to say to them before they listen to your music for the first time?
Oh man. Um Sexy, sultry, soulful honesty is what you're in tune for. It is as organic and sincere as probably this interview has felt.
So that's what I'm going for at the
Yeah,
least.
it's a vibe, man. It's always like everything that I do, I try to make it of a good vibe, a good time, and also filled with like sincerity and thoughtfulness. So I hope that people can find enjoyment in that.
I think that they will, and I can confidently back it up that I fully am propping this record up. So please give me the opportunity to plug it for you one more time here. If you guys missed it the first time around, the record is called Cognizance. We will have the links in our article and everywhere so that you can listen and share and follow along and just generally stay tuned. It sounds like there's a ton more coming one way or another in 2020.
Yes.
If you have not heard Brenda Carsey's music, now is the time. And Brenda, I sincerely want to thank you for really being open and honest and, just
Thanks.
having a conversation that seems normal instead of just like canned answers, because it really is a nice change of pace.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me and for like listening and participating in this conversation that went all over the place.
Okay, you're very welcome. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day and I hope to speak
Thank
soon.
you. Thanks.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.